World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. It's Tony Rogers, your host for Urbanology, the Art of War. I hope all is well. Wow, we are getting closer and closer to my time of year. The weather is slowly but surely, even though it was really cold yesterday morning, but we're getting close. We're getting close. The sun is out, and I hope that you all have an opportunity to enjoy some of this weather and as it comes. We are working on a couple of things. Maybe I'll just do a couple of brief commercials before I bring on my guest. April the 1st, the trip to Ghana, to December 25th. The December 2025 Cultural Oneness Festival will take place. It will be from the 6th to the 14th of December. And the registration for that will open April 1st. And you can get that you can go to goharlem.org or Cultural Oneness .com. So again, if you want to go with us to this wonderful experience, a lot of music, entertainment, food, fashion shows, business discussions, and a number of other interesting ways to get into the culture of northern Ghana. Most people, even in Accra, which is the capital, are not too familiar with the northern part of Ghana. So we're working in partnership with the Taste of Harlem and some other groups there to create a way to let people be more aware of that. The Harlem Tourism Board will have a conference, a post-Harlem Week conference on August the 21st at the Renaissance Marriott Hotel. The focus of the conference will be the city within the city. That's a move. That's something that we're beginning to work on and to push. And what that means is that the Greater Harlem Area Community Boards 9, 10, 11, 12 have a population of over 623,000 people, which would make that population larger than the city of Atlanta, the city of Miami, and we have it right in the greater Harlem area. So that's why we're beginning to look at a city within the city to begin to do plans and focus on what would we do in a city such as Baltimore, develop their harbor, and of course, Miami already has its beaches. But how would you promote that if you were in a city of over 600,000 people? So that is one. The other is Harlem, the birthplace of the Apple. We have now documents that show and can confirm that the whole concept of the Big Apple came from Harlem, thanks to uh, uh, a number of musicians in the 20s and 30s, basically Cab Calloway, and we are starting to reclaim that. So those are thought patterns that will be focused on at our conference, as well as creating some partnership relationships with the New York City Design Festival, which is actually in May, but there are about 6,000 people coming in dealing with design and the like. So we're inviting them up to Harlem to see some of the different things: School of Architecture for City College, School of Architecture for Columbia, some of the things that they're doing. So that's kind of a quick update on some of the Harlem Tourism Board activities that are taking place. And as we talk about tourism, one of the things Harlem is known for is entertainment. And my next guest, uh, in my view, is one of the best drummers that Harlem has been able to during the second Harlem Renaissance. When you talk about drummers who are with us now, there's been many of them who are not with us now, but the ones who are with us now, I don't think anyone will argue the fact that my brother uh, is one of the best drummers that you can find, and has a lot of work. And one of the things that is happening when Phil was on my show uh, a couple of months ago, he was talking about developing a project at Langston Hughes' house. He had been invited to do some things there. So we talked about having them come back on the show once that project got off the ground, and it has gotten off the ground. And then Phil is all over the place. He's doing a number of different events. So I would like for you to give a warm welcome to Harlem's best drummer. The Phil Young Experience is always here.
Oh boy. Thank you very, very much, Tony. I appreciate you. You're too kind, Tony.
And one of the other things that I have to admit or say is that you allow for a lot of artists to get jobs, man. Because you always have different people coming in. So besides being a wonderful entertainer yourself, you're able, from an economic development standpoint, do a lot for some of the artists, the singers, and the like that are out there, because you always have some different people coming on. It's always good to see your shows, because even when you're at your standard places, you never know who you're gonna have coming in here singing with you.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Phil Young is a great brother. And Phil, you had, for those who are new or don't know you, you had a business in Harlem before you really got into this music thing. So talk a little bit about that for the new people who don't know you.
Well, I had a flower shop. It was known as Carolina Flower Shop, and we were the oldest African American flower company in New York City for quite a while. And my grandfather founded the shop in 1939, and we were in existence until I think 2011, and that's when I decided I have to get back to the music. I've been playing drums. I got my first set of drums when I was 7 years old. So,
Wow.
so,
A prodigy. Huh?
so I've been doing this for quite a while, and there was a certain responsibility I felt. When my grandfather started this flower shop uh, in '39, um, I was not yet born, and uh, it was a commitment for him. It was a vocation for him.
Mm-hmm.
It was a landmark when it came to uh, being tenacious and just being here in Harlem, working, staying alive. And,
Mm-hmm.
I felt when he became ill and was unable to continue, that history, that landmark business had to go on.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't let it go.
Right.
And those were one of the promises that I had to make to him, that I would keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
So um, when I got the word that he was not doing well, I was living in Austria, in Vienna. I was playing over there with Art Farmer, and
Mm-hmm.
I lived there, and so I came home. And I thought that I would come home for a couple of days and then go back, but that that turned into 27 years
Wow.
that
So you were away from the music. Now you were still playing because
I was.
with your that's one of the disciplines that separates the men from the boys. They gotta have a good regimen as far as making sure that they are still doing what they do. But
Yeah.
it was I don't know it was that long. I mean, my at that time when I was coming up, a lot of people were from South Carolina.
That's right.
So for funerals, weddings,
That's right.
Mother's Day,
That's right.
Father's Day,
Valentine's Day.
Carolina was always the place that people went. I mean, it
Everyone
was
came there. That's right. We served all the churches in Harlem. We served all the funeral homes in Harlem. We served anyone who was everyone who came to Carolina Flower Shop. Had my grandfather had Ellington, Basie, he had Billie Holiday, uh, you know, uh, I mean, Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, uh, Floyd Patterson, just everyone came to Carolina.
yeah,
Martin when he was here.
yeah, Martin Luther King, right?
Yeah, uh, Adam Clayton Powell, Malcolm X. Everyone came to Carolina Flower Shop, and and right next door there was a restaurant called AKA or the Sisters,
Yeah, the sisters.
and everyone would go there. Come to uh, uh, get dinners, and then come next door and get their flowers and make it on home. So
Right.
yeah.
Yes, that was an interesting time. So you then got back into the music business. When did you do that? I mean, when did you kind of
Well,
give up
the
the
thing was that I was not happy.
Mhm.
I was happy in the sense that the legacy, the history was being maintained, but
Right?
it was also having an adverse effect on me because I was not,
What you were supposed to be
yeah, I was not fulfilling my uh, uh, commitment to
to
life.
you.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, I had a heart attack, and
Hmm.
um, and it was very strange. It was weird because I was walking down Fifth Avenue, and I couldn't hardly breathe. I was feeling uh, really like I mean I couldn't handle anything. I was and
Hmm.
so I was looking for somewhere cool. I felt so hot, and
Uh-huh.
I needed to go somewhere to sit down, and I was right in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral. So I went inside and I sat down, and it was weird. This homeless woman was sitting there, and she looked up at me, and she saw me sit down, and I was feeling, I mean, perspiring and everything. I
Hmm.
didn't know at the time that's what was happening, and
Hmm.
I heard this voice say, "Son, you've done all you can do. You better go to the doctor. You need to go to the doctor immediately." And I said, "Yeah," and I went to the doctor, to the hospital, and they gave me an examination. They said, "Sir, you're having a heart attack," and that's how I found out what was happening, and it made a big difference in my life, because I realized that I'm not doing what I'm here to do.
Hmm.
I'm not happy. You
But you see, when I hear that story, it reinforces my belief that there there's a power that's greater than us. And
Yes.
sometimes when we are here, we're here for a purpose. And
Hmm.
when we stray away from that purpose, there's some sort of objective condition that hits us to
Hmm. Hmm.
make us get back on track.
Yeah.
So that heart attack probably was a message for the mind of the universe to have you get back on track to fulfill what you were here for. And based on my experience with you playing, I'm glad you got back on track because you've made a lot of people happy. You've given a lot of people jobs.
Yeah.
So, this was the only thing I need to do now is to come to your house and see can I get one of those hats. I, you had a hell of a collection there, man. I, but you have so many gigs. I guess you get a new hat for each gig.
Well, that's always been uh, a trademark, which I didn't intend it. I just like hats, and I've always worn hats, and for a long time, some of the hat companies that were here in New York and in Harlem, they would say, would you mind wearing this hat for me? I might be doing Carnegie Hall or Avery Fisher Hall or whatever, and they would say, "Could you wear a hat? Would you like this hat?" And I said, "Yeah, I love it." Well, I've got 2 rooms full of hats on the wall right now, and it's just kind of stuck. So now, just to see me talking to you without a hat on, some people would say, "Who is that guy?"
Who is that guy? He has no hat.
Yeah.
So you have played because we're going to lead up to what you're doing with the house, but you have played in a lot of and still are playing in a lot of restaurants in the Harlem area. But just give a brief outline of some of the major places that you're playing at, and then we'll get into one of the real things we want to talk about is the Langston Hughes house. But where are some of the spots people can catch you, or where you have been playing in Harlem?
Well, um, oh boy, it's, I work almost anywhere and everywhere. My purpose for doing this the way I do it is because, again, it's my assignment. And sometimes people say to me, "Well, why are you playing here? Or why are you playing there? You could be playing anywhere." Well, I feel that my job is to bring happiness, bring focus, to the people who I live with. I live here in Harlem. I love Harlem. Uh, Hopefully, I'll never have to leave it until they decide, till my brother calls me home.
Yeah, I got to take you to Ghana, man. We got to start getting our home away from home in place. You never know what's going to happen soon.
Yeah, I remember a sister. Her name was Letta Mambulu.
Hmm.
She was doing a piece that they use as a national anthem
Mm.
for Nigeria,
Mm.
and Ralph McDonald and I and some very very talented gentlemen. Uh, we did that music for Letta and
Hmm.
for the country,
Hmm.
and it was played all the time as the national anthem. But
Hmm.
later on, um, the president was assassinated, and so I don't hear that music anymore. But it's out there somewhere, you know.
Hmm.
Now, in answer to your question, I on Monday nights I'm playing at a place called Silvana.
Hmm.
Um,
That has great food.
yeah, and I play there. I well, I try to tap into my various experiences. I've worked with so many people in my life, this music life. Starting out with Bobby Blue Bland at an early age,
Hmm.
you know. I was telling someone that I worked with both Blands. There were two Blands. There was a
Hmm.
Billy Bland, and then there was a Bobby Bland.
Hmm.
Bobby Bland, was Bobby Blue Bland,
Bobby Boo, man.
but there was
A
a
lot
Billy.
of people make a lot of these. That's a baby boomer conversation.
Yeah, yeah. but there was another Bland that I worked with also. His name was Billy Bland, and Billy Bland had a hit record called "Let the Little Girl Dance,"
Yeah, that's
and
the
I
little
used to
girl.
work with
Yeah, I
him.
know that. I remember that. That's another baby boomer.
That's right. That's right.
that
So
that was on the 45s, you know.
that's right. That's right. So I worked with him and worked with so many others. I worked with Roberta Flack at Carnegie Hall. I
Mhm.
worked with Mary Lou Williams, Maxine Sullivan, Earl Father Hines, Dizzy Gillespie, Stanley Turrentine, Freddie Hubbard, the Platters, the Coasters, the Drifters, the Fifth Dimensions, Dee Dee Warwick, couple of Broadway shows. Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope. A couple of movies. The Best Man, the uh, um, Good Shepherd with Robert De Niro and
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie.
Hmm.
Some of you guys make jokes about the commercial that I did with the New York Lottery. I get ribbed about that commercial quite
But
often.
you got paid though, you
Oh yeah. But I never won the lottery. I would have
know.
preferred,
You know. At least
hell,
you got something from them. Most people are giving, so at least you know.
that's true. That's very very true. And then I was a musical director for a period over at the National Black Theater with Barbara Antier,
Mhm.
and oh man, it's
They
just
have
been,
a new spot that will be opening soon, which
I
should
know,
be
I know,
that's
yeah,
going to be a nice place.
yeah. So yeah, so and working with Oscar Brown Jr. and I mean it's the list goes on, and Chuck Jackson,
Hmm.
and I'm
And
very proud to say that I've had a good time.
yeah, and of course, the Chamber Harlem Week and Voza, and
Oh
you know, that's family. So we
Boza has been a staunch supporter of almost everything Phil Young is connected with, one way or the other, and I'm really grateful to him as well, because like I think about when I was very very young, and it was about 6.5 years old, and in the flower shop, my grandfather was would make us get up in the morning and come to the flower shop. And this particular day, my brother and I, we were just running around like little roaches all around the flower shop, and he's trying to work. And at that time, Carolina Flower Shop would do, I mean, it was not unusual to have 30 funeral pieces in a day. I mean, literally have to do, and sometimes we would get in the way. And he said to my cousin, who was older than my brother and I, take those little so-and-sos across the street to this movie. He would say the show, just to get us out of the flower shop. The show was across the street, and the show was the Roosevelt Theater on 100.
Roosevelt Theater. Wow.
And so I went.
Memories.
Yeah, he took us to the Roosevelt, and we sat there, and I was watching this movie. It was called The Benny Goodman Story. And in that story, they talked about Lionel Hampton, and they talked about Gene Krupa. And I saw these guys playing, and I saw Gene Krupa playing drums. And when we finally left, and we stayed, in those days, you can go in the movie, stay all day.
Stay all day.
Yeah. You can watch it. And it was more than one film,
And they would have the come next week serials, the Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers and all of those.
Yeah. So,
matter of fact, that was a babysitting. People were sitting.
Exactly. That's why he sent us across the street to the show.
Because they would all day. We would be there. Then we got tired. We started playing tag until they threw us out.
That's right. And then we'd go into the block and play Scully's and these things. But I saw him play drums. I saw Lionel Hampton and how he did what he did, and I saw Gene Krupa do what he did. And when I got back to the flower shop that afternoon, I told my grandfather, I said, I saw something that I want to do. I want to play drums. And so, he heard that. I talk about this quite often now. How important it is that we as parents, as adults, that we listen to our kids. And he heard me, man, because 2.5 weeks later, Postal Service showed up and with these boxes, and there were drums there. Sent me a set of drums. And I got those drums and I started playing. I was 7 years old.
Interesting. And those stories, and it reminds me. I saw my daughter when she was around that age, around 7. We had an old piano, and she was on her back playing it with her toes. So we went out, and I got her electric piano. My wife said, "Why you do that?" And I said, "Because if she could do that with her toes with this toy thing, what can she do?"
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. And she didn't follow like you did, but because she does all kinds of things, singing and all of that. But it's important for us to kind of look at our young people and see what they like, because if you get them involved with something that they like, it's not. It's not work. It's something, when you are working and doing things that you love, it's not like work, you have a passion. But before, because we could, I could. There's so many things, Phil, but I want you to give us a little information about the Langston Hughes house, what that's about, where it is, and I want to make sure that we give enough time to cover that and the story how you got there.
Well, the thing that just to piggyback on this story that I told you about the Roosevelt,
Mm-hmm.
I find that it's very, very important that we give our children options. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this show at Langston Hughes House. The title of the show is called, it's Phil Young Experience at Langston Hughes House. But the theme is about what I call grown folks business. Mm-hmm. And it's all about sharing experiences. We play a little bit, when you come in the show, the doors open at 6 p.m. and there's some music playing and people come in and they sit down and then 6:30 the band will play and we'll play a little music and then we'll introduce Mahalia Jackson, to show the connection and how important it was to just recognize what the Harlem Renaissance stood for.
Mm-hmm.
People came here. How, I sometimes talk about, the flight of my grandfather leaving the South because the Klan was coming to get him that night. My great grandmother said, "Sam, I gotta send you away." And he came to New York.
It's a lot of those stories, That's why so many South Carolina people were up in here now.
Exactly. So, I touch those things when we do this thing at Langston Hughes House. It's about talking about community, talking about the responsibility that young people, all people who live here, would. If you've been here for a long time, as you have, you remember when Harlem was a wonderful place to be, and then
it still is, but it's just a little different now.
And then it was not, and then it became again. And I've seen the transition from the abandoned build from 1 minute it was a community where people would they knew everything about everything. Everybody knew everybody.
Everybody knew everybody on the block.
That's right.
Most of us were relatives and all of that stuff.
That's right. And the building that I lived in, people don't realize there was a time that we had screen doors on our apartments.
Yeah.
And the doors were open and people could walk into the building and you knew who was cooking what. They knew who was going up and down. We had dumb waiters, and then we had the supers who would go with the burlap bag, picking up the garbage, from one apartment to the other. And then it was something happened.
Well, one of the things that happened was the factories all closed and went someplace else because a lot of people got jobs working in the factory. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the jobs that used to make people, give them an ability to survive somewhere, they kind of moved out.
Yeah,
those factories started to close, and those warehouses started to close, and then as you mentioned, people just started moving out if they could, and the ones who stayed couldn't survive. But there was a spirit. There was definitely a spirit. You could. We could sleep on the roof in the summer.
That's right. You could go on the roof, and the roof was like, I mean, it was as good as going to the
Up
beach.
on the roof.
That's right. There was songs written about activities that went on the roof. You know, but I feel that it's so very important that we share these experiences because a lot of young people don't realize what we had
Right.
and how it helps to develop a community, a culture was developed, and I try to keep that alive. And by going to Langston Hughes' house, a place where poems, he was a poet, you know, laureate. He was a writer of songs. He uh, stayed right here in this community. He walked the streets of Harlem, and there's so many poems, so many stories written about him. Uh, he's mentioned. There's a guy who's playing with me now, uh, Chip Crawford, who has won so many Grammys because he worked with and is working with Gregory Porter. And
Hmm.
Gregory Porter's one of the things that he sings about is Harlem and
Right.
Langston Hughes' house and Langston Hughes, you know. And when I started working there and I walked into the house for the very first time, which the house is designated a landmark,
Hmm.
I walked in there and I felt like, yeah, this is where I belong. I need to do this. I've worked, I've made other clubs successful. I was at one club for 8 years because I like residencies. It gives me an opportunity to experiment. It gives me an opportunity to allow for my musical and cultural growth.
Hmm.
One of the things that I liked about my grandfather's uh, uh, tradition, as far as running the flower shop, being in the flower shop, he was there 7 days a week, no fail, every morning.
He
And
loved what he did.
hey, and fortunately, it was something that he could do.
Hmm.
It helped to ground and give some purpose, but yet it was a place where all of the family, anywhere in the country, and in my case, I moved to Europe, but I always knew that I could come back to Harlem and the flower shop was there.
Hmm.
And when you are grounded like that, it helps to uh, help to give you something that says, I have a home.
Hmm.
Now, unfortunately, we as Black people who were here, a lot of us were removed from our motherland, from our home, but we had something. I know I experienced something very, very special in being able to walk into that flower shop, ride down 7th Avenue and see Carolina Flower Shop. It was there for years. I mean, from 39 until almost just before the pandemic. I mean, that's a lot of years that we were there. We have proclamations to attest to that. You know.
Oh, again, we talk about the second Harlem Renaissance. Those are some of the things. These are some of the issues, and what I am blessed to be a part of Soul City because
Mhm,
a lot
mhm,
of these conversations will will be around when we're not,
mhm,
and so young people will know of Phil Young and many of the people who we can interview and talk about. But and the other part of it is it allows for us to provide support to be able to have you be on a platform where people wherever they may be, whether it's around the corner, around the world,
Hmm.
know who you are. And
Yeah.
we have to give the address and how people can get involved with at least the Langston Hughes project, the date, the times, and is there a website or something where people, if they want to, make reservations, how do they do that?
Well, the we perform there every Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
um, from the hours, as I said, the doors open at 6 p.m.
Uh-huh.
They're from 6 to 9:30.
Uh-huh.
In that period of time, oh, by the way, the address is 20 East 127th Street. And
And
what
that's
we
between what?
that's between 5th and Madison.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I said, we play music because music just opens up all the doors. I played music in many countries, and every country, even if they didn't speak English, they understood the music. So we do the music, then we do uh, a poem
Mm-hmm.
by Langston.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have what we call an intergenerational discussion.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you when we talk about dreams deferred? Um, what do you feel? And I will ask someone who may be my age or older, and they have a certain perception about what they've heard. But then I'll move over to the other side of the room and I'll ask a younger person, what do you think? And we usually end up with something about Jay-Z or something. I had a kid say to me one day, the greatest poet that he ever knew was Jay-Z. And I had to laugh. But
Well,
it's it,
in some ways, that is poetry. At some
yeah,
point, that it turned to something else. But when that started, that was, the last poets.
exactly.
But what can people do in order to make reservations or get tickets?
The first thing I want to mention is I don't charge anything at all. It's free of charge. I even give you a little sandwich or something to eat, you know, because, people like to, it's nothing like getting something to eat.
Nothing like that goes back to in South Carolina. You
That's
can go
right.
to somebody's
There
house.
you go. There you
And
go.
matter of fact, we used to have. You remember the rent parties
Yes, yes,
where
yes.
people would eat at different places and play cards, and that was the rent for that apartment. And then they move over to another.
Exactly. And we don't now we will accept
Donations, of course.
at all times. I mean, it's just so important. Um, and I say to the people who are in the rooms, um, this makes you. I guarantee that you'll feel very good that you contributed something because, people. Everybody wants to eat free and listen. I mean, trust me, they come in there and they sit down and they soak up all the music, the singing, the poetry, I mean, I have some wonderful actors who are Tina Fabrique. She's performing with me. As I said, uh, Chip Crawford is performing. Tommy Mormo. I mean, it's just talented people performing.
Do you have to RSVP or can you just walk in?
Just come in
All right,
until
it's full
yes, and then we have to give you
next
a
week.
invitation for next week. And like I said, I try to be tenacious. I try to be, give that habit of being there. You can guarantee you can. I was at another location Thursday night, and I let the group continue on, and everyone was saying, "Well, how's it going to happen without you?" Well, I want it to happen without me, because one day my turn will come, and I will not be here, but the initiative can live on.
Mhm.
I mean, that doesn't, just because Whoopi is not at the View doesn't mean the View doesn't go on. So this is the kind of attitude I would like to have, and continue doing good work even when my time has come.
Well, again, it's good to be able to have that mindset, even though Phil, there will never be another Phil Young, but the idea and concept of a Phil Young can be learned and carried on, which can even be a better situation.
Well,
I always like to say I would like in organizations, I would always try to make them better when I leave than when I got there.
yeah,
you
that's how
know,
I feel. Yeah.
and if I can do that, that means you've empowered other people. You've created a situation where it's not all about you; it's about us, and and it the legacy can continue. We've seen a lot of that, and we've seen not a lot of that as relates to sometimes people don't want to share the light, the shine.
Well, this is the only way that when I was growing up, every year, my grandfather would, his birthday, his birthday would be in March, and we had two stores on the avenue and one store in the block, and every year he would have this birthday celebration, his birthday, and he would feed everyone in the block. All the women in the block would bring pots of food, and he would, homeless people, the dope fiends, the preachers would come in. Everybody came to Carolina.
I might have went past there myself. I used to hang around there.
And that's the way I was raised, and so it just goes hand in hand when we have something to eat and we give them some good music. The only thing I'm not doing is I'm not doing any flowers, but because someone came in a couple of weeks ago and they mentioned, said, "Hey, flower man, you don't have any flowers, no plants, nothing." I said, "No, but you can have a sandwich over there." And so that's you know that's what this whole thing is about. We want our community to be healthy, like
Yeah.
this guy talks about making America great again. I'm concerned about my people, and that they can be happy knowing who they are, recognizing how great they are, recognizing the contributions that they've made to society. We this country would not be what it is if it wasn't for us.
Well, we have to make sure that we support the Soul Cities, the community, New Harlem community, and all of those areas that we control the negative because they're trying to erase.
Oh,
Every day I see they took Jackie Robinson's name down. They erased the Tuskegee Airmen. Uh it's 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 unfortunate, but in many cases it allows for us to become closer because all of our development has always come based on ob- objective conditions, and overcoming those objective conditions. And that has brought out the best of us as a people. When everything is okay, people do not rise to a certain caliber of who they are. But when things become so much that you can't tolerate it anymore, there's another type of person that has to come out and do something, even if it's just one person. But we are in a situation now where I truly believe that it will begin to uh, get worse, but it will bring us together in order to understand that the only no one is going to take care of us but us.
That's that's the dynamic of life. When things are, at some point, life, like here on Earth, for example, the planet, it kind of cleanses itself. When they talk about wildfires and forest fires, well, that's a cleansing process. Sometimes that's recalibrating.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, a field or forest will burn.
Nature is selective, and only the strong will survive.
That's right. That's how.
Nature is, and we're moving in a frequency that if you're not on the right side of that selectivity,
Yeah,
your chances of
yeah, yeah.
survival is not going to be good.
That's right.
Just, just
Yeah,
ask the dinosaur.
yeah, that's right. The dinosaur, and it's unbelievable. You say, "Wow, the dinosaur was so massive, so big," and yet it was not able to survive the onslaught of nature. You
The
know,
change,
the
the
change,
change.
and everything must change.
And what happens is that in that change, you have to learn how to adapt. And if you don't
Yeah,
adapt to the new frequency, you're going to get caught up in the old stuff. So even the things and all of the things that are happening now, what that's doing is making us adapt. This program before before COVID, we did, Soul City wasn't,
yeah,
a major issue
hmm,
as it relates to, let's say, not issue, but a major focal point. Zoom was not a major focal point,
hmm,
but we had to adapt in order to communicate. You know,
and
we
that,
couldn't talk to each other, or in person, so we had to adapt. And if you didn't adapt, you were left
that's
out.
right.
You
That's
know, if I didn't have a Soul City for a long period of time, I
yeah,
couldn't get into the studio for WACR.
yeah,
So there was no communication. So you have to adapt, and if you don't adapt, you suffer. You
right.
know?
Absolutely right. And that's why I always remember again. I you always hear me go back to my grandfather because what he did was he gave me options. When he gave me the set of drums and he also gave me the flower business. Now
Mm,
you do what you want to do with it. And that's what I did. It made it possible for me to get up in the morning, go to work if I wished to, play music if I chose to, but the most important thing was that I could be my own man. And
mm.
he made it very, very important to me. He taught me you have to do something. He always said, nothing comes to a sleeper but a dream. So get up in the morning and do something, And when my musician friends were being subjected to all kinds of uh, ugliness as far as the club owners were concerned, the directors, the producers, the managers were ripping them off. I didn't have to go through that because I had my flower shop and I could easily tell everybody, oh, excuse me, but I'll talk to you later. You talk to me when you are willing to talk to me like a human being and recognize, what I bring to the table. Until that time, I'm going to cut these roses. I'm going to make these funeral pieces. I'm going to prune these plants and I'm going to serve my community in a way, I mean, every kid in the community knew that on Halloween, you could go to Carolina Flowers, say trick or treat, and somebody was going to put something in your bag.
But more important than that, on Mother's Day, we would go and get our, our roses,
That's right.
carnations, and
That's right. That's
all of
right.
that stuff. Uh,
That's yeah. That taught us how, and those things were important to remember. Tradition,
mhm.
rituals. We we are people of rituals. That's part of our culture, rituals. And so uh, I think those things are very important, and I'm committed to, upholding those practices that makes it possible for our people to be, to feel good about oneself. Because
Now, Phil, we have a couple of more minutes. What I want you to do
yeah,
is um, give the listeners where they might be able to find you. We always said, I know you'll be on Thursdays at the
it's in Houston.
Lex Hughes House, which is at 20 East 127th Street.
And then Monday, I'm at Silvana, which is Phil's House of Blues. I
Uh-huh.
do that. That's 300 West 116th Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's at 7 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see, the day after tomorrow, I'm at the Jazz Museum with
Yeah, that's at 3 o'clock, right?
yeah, and 1 o'clock or something.
1 o'clock.
Yeah,
I know it's an afternoon
yeah.
event.
And then I leave there and I go to Langston Hughes' house and I do that, and then I start working on a. I'm working on a podcast at the moment because
Mm-hmm.
we felt that Langston Hughes House is a wonderful place. It's small. It's a brownstone, but we can reach thousands of people via podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on doing that too. And I want to also mention Dr. Price, because she is a wonderful sister who is really supportive of the music and the culture, and she owns that house and she wants to keep things. She wants, Langston stood for community development. He wanted everyone to buy something,
Mm-hmm.
own something, and that's what because of coming from Carolina and my grandfather coming from Carolina and that whole entrepreneurial mindset, that's something that I try to encourage in young people, old people, even when you get to a certain age, and it ain't over yet.
It ain't over until it's over. Listen, Phil, we running out, so
Mm-hmm.
I want to again thank you for again coming on and keeping us updated as to what's happening with the Langston Who's the house, and uh, and this won't be the last time. There are a bunch of other things that you'll be coming back for and promoting. And thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. And I will make sure that at some point I'm over at the Langston Hughes house and get some. I don't eat meat, so hopefully you have some.
Oh, we have something for you.
Okay.
We have something for you.
All right. Just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, man.
You're quite
Appreciate
welcome. Thank you, and I appreciate you as well. And continue doing what you do. Remember now, live your life fearlessly. Be a better human being today than you was yesterday. Do something
Trying to do that, my brother.
that'll make your mom and daddy proud. Walk tall, and remember that people see you coming before they hear you speak.
Take care, Phil. Appreciate
All right,
you.
brother.
All right.
Take
I have to get some of them hats too. We'll have to go make sure that we are in the same. My head is smaller now since I am going bald, but hopefully I might be able to fit one of those hats. He got so many, you can't wear them all. Again, thank you for tuning in today. It's Tony Rogers, your host for Urbanology, The Art of War. And God willing, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.
This is Kier Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.